I am Amado Presley Munoz. I'm a Chicano first generation, born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. My family migrated here, my grandmother. So my mom was 8 years old when she migrated to South Central, and this is where we basically came to form, our community. So I am a native Angelino. I pride myself with that. I pride myself with being native to this continent, right? And I pride myself with understanding and exploring my Chicano roots. So you mentioning that people see me in that light is very humbling, and I'm honored because I feel I have earned my stripes, right? As we proceed to follow what our journey is, I feel that I really want to be seen. I really want my culture to be acknowledged. I really find us to be needing to educate us. So yes, that all of that resonated when you started that. So I appreciate that. My mom's a social worker. So I was very, she's retired now, but I was very privileged, I would say, to know certain words that youth at my age probably wouldn't know, right? So resources, right? Workshops for parents, right? So with that understanding, at the age of, I was a chicken, so I'm gonna say the age of 20, I decided to go into the yellow pages, I'm aging myself, and start looking at organizations because I felt different. And I didn't know who to go to. And I was scared to go to my mom, even though I knew she helped people. So I went through the yellow pages and I found organizations, and I'm like, organizations, and then I'm seeing the alcoholism for women and, just like different stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should be more specific. I'm like, gay and lesbian, right? I'm Googling, I'm typing it now, but it wasn't that. It was the yellow pages, right? So organizations, then I went specific to gay and lesbians, and I found Bienestar Human Services. And I made a call, and I knew that they had a youth group. And it was for queer, for at that time it was LGBT. So for lesbians and bisexual and gay youth. So I called them. And after I hung up a couple times, I finally, spoke to somebody, and they said, hey, we have a youth group, come by. Well, in that youth group, I was exposed to education. That I put myself wanting to just find a support group because I was going crazy, trying to figure myself out. And in those youth groups, we started talking about HIV and STDs. Mind you, I wasn't a person who I would consider myself sexually active. I had my first experience at 19 years old. So these were kind of like, right? And in my culture too, like, you're not expected to be talking about sex, let alone having sex. Right? So that's the first time I heard about HIV. It's the first time I heard about STDs. And it was uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. It was uncomfortable for several reasons. There's like layers. Uncomfortable because it was my first youth group. Uncomfortable because there was people like me, right? And at that point, I identified as gay, never identified as lesbian. Don't like the word, didn't like the word, didn't feel that it belonged to me. So gay is what I consider queer now, right? It's that kind of umbrella term. Oh, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. Everybody's gay, you're a woman, So, and then, you're talking about STDs, talking about HIV, talking about stuff that I would not be talking about it, even though my mom and I are very close. I remember the first time she asked me if I had sex. It was in the Spanglish kind of version. And we're just sitting watching TV. I was 19 years old. She's like, have you had sexo? So Spanish, English, right? And I'm like, Mom, yes, okay. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to lie to her because we were very close. And I figured 19 was a good age, right? But yeah, so that was the first time that conversation happened. And I got to tell you, the feeling that I received when all of that, and I started continuing to attend those youth centers, in less than a year, I was already a health educator for Bienestar Human Services. So I'm actually an HIV educator. How I started my nonprofit journey is I just felt education was super important. My mom taught me about grassroots. My mom being a social worker, she would go in the inner city of South Central and talk to parents and see if they had children, because their job was to find children that were the age of 3 or 4, to get them enrolled in school. And if the parents didn't know about those services, well, this is what our services do, right? So it's a Head Start program when the Head Start program started in the inner city. So it's like pre-K, pre-kindergarten. Oh, absolutely. Yes. So we had HIV 101 training. And back then, gosh, yes, we had a way to educate kids in a school setting, right? So our models were mostly like the easy way to show the spread of HIV by playing games, right? By playing card games, right? So youth can basically hear it, see it, understand it, right? So that was our main focus, figuring out ways that not only through education, right, protection, letting them know that you can still have safer sex, right? Safer sex is what we're educating, not safe sex, right? So safer sex. So having certain words, to help them understand. One of my favorite card games was that one person that has a dot in the card. So everybody has just blank cards, and one person has a red dot, right? And that one person meets 4 people, introduces himself, and then they put their dot in there, right? So when the game is over, you find out that person contacted all these persons, right? All these people. So that was a visual, very easy. So our focus was very much school, in light auditoriums, and speaking to them, educating them. We had a structure, also promoting our youth group and doing outreaches at clubs. So outreach and protection, having, being able to have somebody pass our booth and just say, are you familiar with HIV? Are you familiar with STDs? And, just having, because STI is what I hear more now. STDs is what we used to use, right? So also understanding all of those kind of now, from when I started to now. So I'm old school. So once I had those tools, oh, you better believe I brought it to my home. I'm like, here, this is what I found, right? My grandmother told me once, you have always been a person that continues. And I didn't understand what that means, continues, right? And she says, you've never stopped. And she, when I started talking to her about how I was feeling, and I'm very close to my family, specifically the matriarchs in our family. My grandmother is the one that decided, the one that spoke, the one that hustled, the one that we saw all these things, and she always lent a sense of freedom to my spirit. So I felt very safe, even though there was certain guilt, right? I didn't understand that. I really didn't. I don't know if it was the culture, right? But she was very free. And I saw her she brought a lot of people from Mexico over here when she migrated. I say I'm first generation. So our neighborhood has a lot of family from Mexico, and we created our own community, right? So I felt safe, and so I think she recognized that in me in a very young age. And when I would talk to her about certain stuff that I've learned, and she's like, you've never stopped. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, you could have been happy a long time ago, because I realized that when I speak about stuff, I'm very passionate, right? And there's disagreements. And so when you know, you can't help but want to share that knowledge with the people you love. That's what I learned from my mom as a social worker, and that's what I brought into my family, and I still do. Trust, it's not easy. It's still not easy. Especially when I got married, it's like, hey, you're loved already. Why go further? Because I'm still not happy, right? So yeah, they listened. That's all I took from that. What I do in general, Amado has conversations, right? And what Amado does to educate himself is put himself in spaces like this to learn as well. Because in all honesty, you know, aside from HIV and STIs now, you know, conversations always with my family, with the guys that are having sex, right? Or my cousins that I know, or you know, that are younger, just instilling safer sex practice. I do not feel bad saying, you know, are you using condoms? Do you even know what's, you know, what it takes to be sexually active, right? Because I notice, especially with the boys, that my answer is like, oh, he's 18 and he has a girlfriend, and I'm like, oh, he was dancing. Well, you know, he wants some. It's like an easy conversation for them to say that the young boy, my cousin, is ready for sex, so he's dancing to prove, right? And it's a joke. But to me, it's like, are we aware of what we're saying? And do we just want to make this a joke? Right? So being able to hear that and then go into where he's at and then have those little conversations where they're not intimidating, where I can still be his friend. Because I'm the oldest grandchild of about 30 in my mom's side. My mom's the oldest of 11 children, right? So those roles, you know, especially as someone that, you know, is proud of being, you know, my lineage of indigenous people, those things I take really to heart. So when you tell me what is Amado doing, those things are super important to me. Being able to show that I am an elder in the making. It even makes me feel really good. I don't understand. I don't know if my family really understands the power that I feel, or how I want to communicate. Because I think we all know this in cultures, in families. There's always a separation of the person that wants to educate in this form and then the parents and not wanting that. So how do I navigate that, right? And how do I eventually have to give up? That is hard. When you know something is happening in your family and there is rules that someone took that I understand that's why they're there, it's really difficult for me. So what I try to do is ensure that my family and the people around me know that I'm a child advocate first. Those words to me, I think they're impactful, because be aware of how you're treating a child in front of me, how you're speaking to the child in front of me. I feel that Amado, the way he protects and educates is by ensuring that children are safe and free. So when those conversations come to light, they could probably be like, oh, my Nino, my uncle, my brother, my cousin, my son, my grandson. They can come to me because I've kind of paved that entrance for them. And to continue doing these things and to continue learning, because it's paused. So I'm not going to say, that I know now where we're at when it comes to, HIV and all the medications that we have that help us live longer, right? But I'm open to it and I'm open to learn. Okay, so
Or what do you know about PrEP?
yes, really wanted to come into this with exactly what I know, which is very limited. Instead of going in and learning more about it, because I think that our community also needs to know that someone who's worked really hard to educate himself is at a point right now where I don't know much, right? At a 48 years of age, the knowledge that I have on PrEP is limited. What I know or what I started hearing is it was for more cis men. Then I heard, okay, uh, gay men should be taking this. Then I hear trans should be taking it. And then that's when I started listening because I fall in the trans, right? So that's when I'm like, okay, so what is PrEP? And all I got is minor education through attending events, right? Which is to prevent, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, to prevent sexual diseases or including HIV, um, um, and um, and to stop that, right? To prevent that. However, again, because I knew it was only for certain, and I happen not to have much sex, it's the truth, that I didn't feel it was for me. So, PEP and PrEP, PEP, I know nothing.
Okay.
PrEP is the only thing I've heard. I've seen commercials. I've seen a lot of billboards. So I see a lot of movement in education. However, because I feel it's nothing that pertains to me, my knowledge has stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know, you're telling me like that, and I would want to say, wow, yes. However, I have so many questions.
Right.
Right, right, yeah, naturally. Like, we know that HIV is transmitted through blood as well, and body fluid. Yeah, blood, body fluid. So, to me, having something, body fluids, yes, but it's also blood related. See, that's to me so shocking. And I think if this is the magic pill that you're telling me, I would have to say, what a wonderful, uh, 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 you know, um, way to be able to live in a safer way. And why wouldn't we want everyone to know about PrEP?
Right.
Why wouldn't we? And if again, my knowledge, because I didn't think, and because my sexual, history wasn't something that I would feel need that, I would tell you now that I wouldn't be opposed to actually starting to take something like that and prevent it. I would, yes, because especially in our community, especially the men, because of the patriarchy, and follow up question: is PrEP and PEP safe for cis women?
Yeah. I
So
think as far as
everyone,
pregnancy, I'm not sure they would
So pretty much everyone should be taking this. If we are sexually engaging, everyone should be taking this. Everyone should know these resources. Everyone should know about PEP. Everybody should know about PrEP. So with knowing this, you're just loading my arsonist, like, or how do you call it, my yeah, like my way of being able to educate my community, specifically in my home, right? And my nephews who are in that high school, college years, right? Where I can get them where they're just starting, right? I feel like you gave me so much to be able to share, and that's a great feeling. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I haven't. I haven't because I've seen it because I tend now. I don't have these conversations with the new organizations, the new people I'm meeting in the cis hetero environment, but my queer family, there, I'm sure that because it is constantly talked at everywhere I go, each time I'm in any event. So I feel that it's very accessible to my queer community. Have I seen it in those other environments that I've been to? No. No, I haven't. Unless there is a queer organization, right? Or someone that there's an organization with a queer person there, right? Like Walls Las Memorias, like, Bienestar, right? Like the Gay Lesbian Center, right? So I can name you those places or those people that I've seen have a booth, educating folks, again, in my queer environment, but I have not at all, because I was telling Nikki that I'm very involved with Plaza Las Culturas en Artes in Placita Olvera. I do a lot of events there. I've met Dolores Huerta, and I do not see any of those educations around there. So I have seen it in bus, so I know that that's there, but I haven't, no one has come to me with any questions, but me as an outsider, that's what I've seen. I'll tell you, it's a stigma. It's a stigma, and I'll tell you because, hepatitis C wasn't something that we talked about in our home, right? Because you can also get that through, drug usage, sexual contact. So hush hush, right? Well, I have family who are OG gangsters, right? And what does that mean? That most of these guys didn't protect themselves. If I'm aging myself 48, this is my uncle at 60, right? We never ever talked about it. But what was interesting, when we discovered he had hepatitis C, we were open to having a conversation and educating ourselves. Oh, because your tío blah 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 has hepatitis C, and I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So then I go, right, and I realized what hepatitis C is, because I didn't know either. Again, I'm going to what I knew about HIV, STDs, the end, right? Because I feel that was when my youth in education and helping, right? So once I figured out how I'm going to protect myself, how I'm going to live, I kind of felt like, well, I don't really have to engage in educating other folks, right? But then my uncle, and I'm like, they know, but they don't know. He knows. He found out what he needs to do. And for him, it was interesting because he was very proud of the stuff he learned and how to fight it, or how to control it, or how to live. Right? So that was really empowering to me to see that this old school cholo that could easily been like, I got this, he was more happy to figure out how to live. right? So those conversations were exposed in my family, and they were easier, to have. So I feel my family, just speaking for would be open to hearing this conversations, especially because my aunts are having kids. I have kids who are teenagers. So if this is where we're transitioning in, and they're open with this new movement of the way kids are, I feel that they will receive this information. Ooh, I would say that sexuality is beautiful. Exploring and knowing who you are is something that we should all be allowed to experience, and that we do live in a place that cares. And because we live in a place that cares, there's so many ways that we can experience ourselves in a safer way. And I would educate them by what I've learned today. By saying, yes, there's so many things that can harm us, but there's so many things that we can use to protect ourselves. And this is what it is.